Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for our free webinar session presented by ERP Connect. Today's topic is Supercharge your dashboarding and reporting for Business Central. We estimate that today's webinar will take around 1 hour of your time, including some time at the end for Q&A. Our webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after the live session. All attendees will receive a follow-up email after the webinar is complete with a link to access the presentation. Everyone will remain muted throughout this webinar, but that being said, I'd like everyone to submit questions through the chat during the session, and our experts will do their best to answer all questions at the end of the webinar. Now I'd like to introduce you all to Ben Cole, President at ERP Connect, and Grant Horvath, VP of Sales at ERP Connect.
Thanks for the intro, Robbie. So for everyone on the call, like Robbie was saying, this is going to be our session specifically focused on how our dashboards and our automation tools can help supercharge Business Central out of the box. So what we'll be focusing on today is a live demo going over our financial dashboard, sales dashboard, history and statistics to round that out. Then we'll be going over into the automation side. So focusing on invoice and statement delivery, our advanced notifications tool, as well as advanced accounting. Every single one of these extensions are built natively into Business Central. We like to call this our essentials bundle. These are the 6 that we see companies using most and that can benefit from the most immediately. But we do have 20 different other extensions to make a total of 24, my apologies. So we have 18 other different extensions that round that out that are more requirements based. So we're going to focus on these 6. I'm going to pass it off to Ben. He's our expert, and let's hop into that live demo.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, both for the intro there. Like they both said, I'm going to be sharing some screens here today. I hate PowerPoint, so I'll actually show you what we can actually do inside the system rather than just talk about it. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump over to the demo. So Grant, can you confirm just that you can see my screen and that you're seeing Business Central?
Confirmed.
Awesome. So what you're seeing here as kind of the first thing that we'll go over is our financial dashboard, right? So we've got 3 different dashboards that we're going to go over. And I always like to start with kind of the ideas behind why we created these and what benefits you can get, especially with there being so many different reporting options out there in the market today, right? So the goal of ours is to, 1, make sure that everything's directly embedded into Business Central, and 2, make sure that you get all of that data in the Business Central look and feel, right? So you log in, you notice that it looks and feels immediately like Business Central, and you get some of those kind of out of box functions such as like exporting to Excel, drilling into the data, and all things like that, right? So when you come into this, we like to think of this as kind of the starting point for reporting that most people are like, why is this not already baked into out of box Business Central? Why do we have to use all the other reports, right? So think of this as kind of the starting point, and it is pre-packaged, right? So most of the things you're going to see today, what you see is what you get. We can always tweak things with a little bit more development work, but we're trying to build a prepackaged solution, and that's obviously all kind of reflected in the price that we charge, right? So without further ado, we'll jump into the actual metrics that you can get in the dashboard, right? So we've taken feedback from many different partners and many different customers to kind of craft and concoct this. So what you're going to see on the general tab that we're looking at right now is some quick KPIs and balance checks. The KPIs, you set the goal, the actuals obviously calculated by Business Central, and it will tell you whether you're on goal or short of the goal. Luckily, in this case, we're all on goal. That's great. We can move on to the next piece as kind of your health check, right? So that first part, the KPIs, we're healthy, we're good. Let's move over to balance checks. Now we're starting to see some things that maybe don't look as good, right? I can look at AR. I notice that that's out of balance. My GL and my subledger, we all know, should never be out of balance. So this just, again, gives me an indicator, kind of that check engine light, right? That the out of balance flag has now been thrown, and we need to go look at our GL versus our subledger, see where that got out of balance, fix it, turn direct posting off, and then continue to move forward, right? Same thing with inventory here, we're slightly off. And then the bank account, we've broken that up into assets and liabilities. Looks like my liabilities off, but my assets are fine, right? So again, this is just comparing general ledger to subledger and making sure you're in check. The next few things we have down here are taking some ideas from out-of-box Business Central, such as the previously known as account schedules, now known as financial reports, and baking those into the dashboard, right? The whole idea is that one-stop shop. So we said, most people are already using these in Business Central. Let's embed them so that they don't have to go somewhere else to get their financial data. So here I just have a pretty basic balance sheet and pretty basic income statement. I was doing a not-for-profit demo just a bit ago, so I changed that to statement of activities up here, but this is basically your 12-month income statement, right? So again, get that one-stop shop look and feel. If you want to see those reports just slightly larger, that's what our Fin Report 1 and Fin Report 2 are for. You simply just click on those and it's going to give you that same report, but in that like larger financial report view. So again, you're kind of just working through the tabs up here at the top to navigate through general, financial reports, AR, AP, all that fun stuff. One of everyone's favorites and one of my personal favorites as well are the AR and the AP views. Anybody who I've worked with going into Business Central, they look at the reports that come with it. They don't print out the way they want to. And they're looking for something like this, right? And they always have to go build it somewhere else. So again, what we've tried to do here is give a good starting point for AR and AP, give a quick pie chart for where all that money sits in the AR standpoint. You can go ahead and click on any of these and it will actually pull up what invoices make up those amounts. I can then look at all of my past due customers. I can sort them highest to lowest. Again, I can click into any of these balances and see exactly what makes up that balance. And then finally down here, this would be more of kind of your summary aging for AR. So you see all your customers, where they're located, their phone numbers and contact if you need to reach out to them, what their terms are, their credit limit, when the last time they paid. And then one of my personal favorites is average paydays. So what average paydays does is for that one specific customer, it's kind of a day sales outstanding metric, right? So you can look at anywhere between the last 5 and 20 payments. That's a configuration option. And based on those payments applied to invoices, it will tell you, the terms are 15, but in reality, their average paydays is 23. So based on their behavior and their activity, they're actually paying in 23 days. So it's just a good metric to look at and compare to the payment terms to see if people are kind of holding up their end of the deal, right? And making sure that they're making their payments in time. And then you can obviously look through these and then see the balances as well. So we can see the total balance due, current, and then some of the different buckets that are pretty kind of classic in any AR sort of view. I've also got an AP view that's going to look basically identical to the AR view, just with vendor data on the flip side. So we'll jump into, I think I clicked AR again. Let's jump into AP real quick. Don't think I've been in this today, so it may ask me to recalculate. We'll find out here in a second. Yep, just saying I haven't recalculated it in the last 24 hours. So let's do that. And again, kind of the same look and feel on the AR side, different buckets for your vendors, who your past due vendors are, and then kind of what each vendor's total balance is broken out by bucket. All of that stuff you can drill down right into. Just for the sake of time, we're going to skip to cash and we'll get into, we have a whole sales dashboard for you. So we'll skip that on the sales side. And then the inventory side, we can get into here in a second. But for the cash piece, I love this one because everybody wants to know their cash positions, right? How much do you have in different liability bank accounts, which are going to show as negatives, and then any checking accounts obviously will show as positives here. We have another check here that shows all of your bank accounts, what posting group they're tied to, what GL account that posting group is associated to, and then again, is my group, my posting group in balance, or my subledger in balance with my GL. So take that first thing we looked at, that general ledger look, where it showed AP, AR, bank, inventory, those kind of things. If bank's off, you can come here and go bank account by bank account to see what's off, to just get a little bit more granular, right? And the whole idea behind this is kind of that dashboarding health check for your company. So look at this real quick and see, are you kind of in line with your expectations, and click through those tabs to quickly and easily see your performance. Liquid assets, if you have anything that is liquid that's not in a bank account, you can add the GL accounts in our setup. The setup takes about 15 minutes to do everything, and you can immediately start to see these things. So this would be other bank accounts, maybe clearing accounts or something like that, that you also want to include in your cash. You can see historical cash usage trends, and then the future cash forecast, which this was always one of those things that people would come to me and say, hey, Ben, we're having a really tough time building our cash flow forecast, or it's just Business Central makes it overly complicated. What we've set out to do here is, again, give you kind of a starting point to get you very close to what an actual, like, data point by data point cash flow forecast would look like. We're using things like your AR and AP, your cash. Those are kind of the three easiest. And then you also have the option to include release sales orders, release purchase orders, and then even put in a manual, like Excel budget kind of looking thing, where that will forecast recurring expenses that are never going to hit AP, for example, or they're never going to be run through a purchase order. Think of things like payroll. You're just putting a journal entry. I know it's going to be $100,000 every month or every 2 weeks or whatever that number is. And it's not going to show up anywhere to forecast, but you can put it in that Excel-based budget to then hit those points as you go throughout the next 6 months or however far out you want a cash flow forecast. The last thing here, and again, you can export all that fun stuff to Excel. The last thing here before moving out to the sales dashboard, and like Grant said at the beginning, I don't want to just talk for an hour, so I'd like to answer some questions if anybody's got questions. Would love to make it interactive. Obviously, I'm here to help educate everybody on the call and hopefully give some kind of useful information if somebody's looking to use this. So I do encourage questions. But last thing on here is going to be the inventory section. So you can see how much inventory you have by your item categories, how much inventory you have at each location. If you have any negative items, it would warn you here. Any adjustments that you've done, and then a total kind of inventory value and statistics that's going to show item by item, the description, the category it's in, the posting groups, the sales order and purchase order quantities on hand, day supply lead time ratios, things like that. So if you're using inventory, then would highly recommend looking at some of these things again for kind of a high level look and feel into your data. So that's the financial dashboard that has about 30 different, whatever you want to call them, little areas or charts, right? Between general ledger, the financial reports, the AR, the AP, the inventory, the sales, and the cash. So again, 30 things, kind of plug them in, get up and running as quick as possible, and start to visualize some of your data without needing to kind of spend a lot of money and customize a bunch of BI reports, which we have a lot of clients who use both, right? We've got clients who use 3 reporting tools, honestly. One, user defined, one more BI, and then ours is kind of a starting point. So a lot of different options out there, but we like to think this is kind of that great starting point for getting some dashboarding and visualizations directly embedded into the BC user interface. Grant, any questions yet? Otherwise, I can keep going and we can jump into the the sales dashboard.
Yeah, Ben. So I'm actually going to warm the chat box up myself here. So everyone, what I just put in the chat, every single one of these extensions that we'll be going over does have a 30-day free trial. So if you just want to work with your consultant or your rep over at Sabre, get this into your environment real quick and even just do a health check to see kind of how things are going with your GL versus your sub ledger, go ahead and check out that free trial. We have one for every single extension. Like Ben said, go ahead and hop in that chat box if you have questions. We're also very emoji friendly too. So if you feel like you like one of our extensions and you want to press the react button and give us a thumbs up, we're also a fan of those. Oh, we got a little heart already from Ben. There we go. All right, Ben, back to you.
Yeah, great point, Grant. One thing that we have a lot of people actually do is they'll download the free 30-day trial to see if they like it. They'll come in and just look at the balance checks. I mean, you get a kind of a free health check, right? See if your stuff's in balance or not. If you don't see any future value of using it, you just don't use it after 30 days. But if you like it, we can definitely provide a full license. So kind of a no risk way to test it out and get some actual data that you can make some decisions on or make some improvements on. So feel free to plug it in for 30 days. If you don't like it, you won't hurt our feelings, but we'd love for you to at least give it a look and check it out. It's always more meaningful with your own data, which is why we like to give those 30-day trials as well. So I'm going to hop out of the financial dashboard and hop into the sales dashboard. So what I'm showing on the screen for most of my demos, just because we're based in the US, I show our US map. I know there's a lot of people on the phone from Canada as well. We are working on a Canadian version of this. And then we also have a world view that shows, instead of state by state, it'll show country by country. But again, the general idea behind this is kind of a bubble map or a heat map based on state, which is what I'm looking at right now. And it'll show your sales, your credits, and your net sales. So again, you can kind of just look at these things, very similar to the financial dashboard, click into them, see what makes that balance up. I didn't go this deep in the financial dashboard, but what you'll notice is when I pop this out or drill down into it, we're just using out-of-box Business Central tables, right? So we're not doing anything fancy here besides popping open the customer ledger entries, which means you get all of those customer ledger entry functions, right? So you can do find entries, you can reverse a transaction, you can apply entries, right? You can show the documents, you can look at the dimensions, you can look at what's already applied. All those native functions because we're just utilizing the out-of-box built-in Business Central tables and pages and fields, right? So kind of going off that, the sales dashboard is a great way to do a deep dive into all of your sales metrics. Whether you want to look at it at the kind of geo view or you just want to see kind of a trend by date, right? This is a lot of people's kind of first stop when looking at sales. They'll come to the sales dashboard, come up to this by date tab, then they can immediately see how much have I sold today, how much have I sold this week, how much have I sold this month, how much have I sold this year, what are my sales by date metrics, what are my year-to-date metrics for the last 6 years. Again, if I click on 2023, for example, it's going to pull up everything that makes up that balance of whatever this is, 115,000. Coming down here, current year, what are my sales? You can see kind of slow going there. And I've been doing like 1 million demos this month, it feels like. So August, I've just been continuously booking sales orders, which is going to inflate my sales number, which isn't a bad problem to have, right? But you can see kind of that trend over the last 12 months, or I should say the current 12 months of the fiscal year you're on, and that will show in your monthly sales. Now, we have some of the same things kind of tracking sales for by date that we looked at, the US sales, looking at it by item, by dimension, by salesperson. So I'll just hop around and look at a few of these. Looks like we got one question, which I'll answer here in a second. And this would be sales by salesperson. So who are all my sales people? What are the trends here that we see by month? What are my trends in a kind of a line chart? And then again, you can like hide people, show people, whatever you need here to drill down to that. And then the top salespeople here over in kind of a grid view as well. We do have a question before I jump into our history and statistics. Let's see, one, is this only available in the US, not in Canada? And does it only work with the cloud version? Cloud version, yes, this is only available in the cloud version currently. We have looked at deploying it on the on-premise version as well. So if you are in an on-premise deployment, let us know and we can work with you on that. And in terms of, is it available in the US and Canada? It should be available in both. We've got definitely clients using it in the US and we also have clients using it in Canada. The Canada view would be the only thing that doesn't exist currently. So the app will work in Canada. It'll work in any NA localization, which would be Mexico, United States, and Canada. And we also are working on W1 versions right now. If anybody has any international counterparts that they work with that are not on the North American localization. So that should all be good to go. And again, if you have anything that's not cloud currently, just feel free to reach out to Grant and I, and we can potentially work on that with you. All right. So number 3, we've talked about financial dashboard and sales dashboard so far. The third one, which I love, and I look at this every day, we use a lot of these tools internally for running our business as well, is history and statistics. So history and statistics is going to be a little bit different than the two we just looked at. The main difference being before we were looking at kind of aggregated data, right? So give me all my sales across all my customers, give me all my purchases across all my vendors, give me all my GL data, which is great. But what history and statistics does is it gives you a different option and a different way to look at the data. So what we're actually going to be doing here is doing a hyper-focused drill down into one master record. So those master records are going to include customers, vendors, items, and bank accounts mainly. We also have some change tracking on transactions, which we'll get into, but I'm going to start with customer summary. So you can see up here that we're looking at a customer, that customer is number 100. And I can see for this one customer, how much have they bought from us over the last 12 months? What's their current balance? What's their average pay days, fulfillment days, on-time delivery percentage? What are they buying by item category? So again, I can see they're basically buying solely computer hardware. So again, you can look at this quantitative data and make some qualitative analysis, right? Do I want to double down and just keep selling them computer hardware, or they bought some software in the past? Do we want to try to expand kind of that line of business, right? So these are things now that you can look at from a sales perspective, a customer service perspective. Anybody who's analyzing customer data, they call up, you look at their sheet, their history and statistics page here, and you can see all their activity, right? September, October, November of last year, some increasing sales. Then they went dark December and January. Now they've came back and they're firing on all cylinders again. So maybe looking at, what happened during these months. Why were we low? How do we keep it at these August levels or these November levels, right? So again, just hyper-focused data for this customer. What's their AR balance? So, 25% of it or so sitting in the current bucket, 75% sitting in that 1 to 30. Their AR trends have been significantly increasing. Maybe that's something that you want to look out for. What are the top items that they are purchasing from you? So they're buying a lot of Surface 8s, a little bit of professional service. Where are they located? What's every item that they've bought from us? So you can look at this just to quickly see, okay, when was the last time they bought it? What was the quantity? What was the price? Again, just kind of a one-stop shop for the customer and everything that's going on. What are all of the open orders that this customer currently has with you? Any open quotes, any open returns? If you're doing jobs, you can see the job planning lines there, every posted invoice, and then the change log. So this change log I really like. I like it because you don't have to go to the change log entries. If anybody on the phones use change log entries, they've probably had a tough time with it, including myself, right? So this is nice because you can come to the customer and you don't have to sift through all the changelog entries. You can see directly on this page exactly what's changed for this customer. I've changed their address and their name, and you can see right there who changed it, when it was changed, what field, what it used to be, and what it is now. So we tried to take all the mumbo jumbo of changelogs and put it all into history and statistics. You go into the record, you can see exactly what changed. You don't have to bounce around to a bunch of different spots in order to see it. So that's the one-stop shop view that we get with history and statistics. And again, that will extrapolate over to vendors, which I won't show because I won't probably have enough time. I will go over the items, and then in the transactions themselves, like purchase orders, purchase invoices, sales orders, sales invoices, you can enable some of that change tracking as well. Again, the only prerequisite is that you have to have the out-of-box either change logs turned on or the field monitoring. Both of those functions update the same table on the back end for BC. That would be that change log entries. So as long as you're already tracking that kind of stuff, this will show up immediately, and anything historically will show up as well if it's been tracked previously. So again, one of those tools, like Grant was saying, you could plug it in, you could test it out for 30 days. If you like the way the data visualizes and displays on your screen, great, you can keep it. If not, feel free to uninstall it. Again, no hard feelings. We just like testing it out with actual customer data because it's a lot more powerful with your own stuff in there, right? All these test data points probably don't mean a lot to everybody listening to me, but that's okay. That's why we've got the chat box open for some questions. So with that, I'm gonna try to do the first half in about 30 minutes for the dashboarding, and then we'll hop to productivity and automation. So last thing I'm gonna show here on history and statistics to round out dashboard 3 of 3 is the item history. I love the item history because again, it gives us a one-stop shop into everything that's happening with this item. So if I look at this Microsoft Surface 8 that I'm selling, I can see that I've got 90 on hand. I've got 54 available. My average lead time, because I fulfill things in my demo incredibly fast, is 0 days. My day supply is 58, and my average age of inventory is 22 days, right? Then as we come down in here into some of these charts, I love this one, sales and purchasing. You can see how much you've been purchasing versus how much you've been selling. So for a little bit there, we weren't really selling much, but we bought 100 of them. Why did we buy 100? I don't know. Those are things you can now look into, right? And then all of a sudden, finally, my sales and my purchasing demand are kind of matching here, right? Which is a good sign. My inventory levels spiked way up because I bought a bunch. Now they're kind of flattening out down here. What were my purchase price trends for this item? What were my sales price trends for this item? What's every single open sales quote, sales order, and sales return that has this item on it currently? I can drill down into all those. You can see all the different customers here with those. What's every open purchase quote, purchase order, purchase return I have? Again, I've got plenty of inventory. Why do I have 6 or 7 open purchase orders right now? To me, it doesn't seem like we need more inventory. So those are things that I can look into and kind of use, again, this quantitative data in order to qualitatively look at these different data points, right? Because one of the main purposes of reporting and dashboarding isn't just to sit there and look at it. It can be pretty sometimes, right? But you're doing it to make decisions, right? And you're doing it to improve your business. So we try to put all of those things in here so you can quickly look at it, make decisions, and go take action on things, which we'll get into in our advanced notifications, as well as being one of the huge benefits of using advanced notification is kind of that real-time notification feedback and acting on those things that you need to act on. If you're using jobs or production orders, those will also appear here. You can see all of the inventory by location. So I can see that I've got 61 surfaces in Tampa, I've got 4 in Dallas, and I've got 35 in Chicago. Again, you can click into that and see exactly how that number was achieved, or how we got to that number, right? So I've got 2 purchase receipts there. If you're using bins, your inventory by location would show here, by location and bin. We've also got some other tools, one being a distribution control center that helps streamline picking, packing, shipping, receiving, all those fun things. So if you have those kind of needs, definitely some other things that we could look into. Inventory aging and valuation, again, just for this Surface 8, what are all of those kind of transactions that go into our inventory aging and valuation? And then finally, the change log, right? On 3/24/10/08, I changed it from Surface 9 to Surface 8, right? Just like we saw on the customer side, all of that's tracked in the change log, and it all is going to display at the very bottom of history and statistics. And again, main goal here, provide a one-stop shop of a lot of things that, in order to get all this information, I'd have to go to probably 5, 6, maybe 7 screens to get everything that I just looked at, right? If you wanted to see your trends, your quantities available, your purchase price and sales price trends, the orders it was on, and the inventory by location, for example, it's gonna take you 10 minutes just to find all that by going to the out-of-box screens, right? So we've tried to combine all of that into one view and give you that one-stop shop. So when you think history statistics, think one-stop shop for that item, customer, or vendor. Grant, any other questions right now? The only other thing I have on history and statistics, which I'm not going to demo, but I'll talk about real quick, is bank accounts, especially vendor bank accounts. So we have the ability to do change tracking on those, as well as put the change logs in Business Central. And then one feature I love, which whether you use history and statistics or not, because it's free and it's Business Central out of box, that I've found a lot of people aren't using or are underutilizing, is the field monitoring. Field monitoring is great because if somebody changes a account number or routing number, you can automatically send somebody an email. So I could send myself an email anytime anybody changes those values, and I get immediate feedback that somebody changed a vendor bank account number, which could lead to, could help prevent fraud or something like that. So that's something free. It doesn't even have to do with our app, but if you use that free feature with our app, both of those working together gives you incredible insights into anything that's changing, and really helps change and monitor those change logs and field monitoring. So I'm right at the half hour, Grant, so we're on perfect time, and I'm going to just flip the switch to productivity and automation if there's no other questions in the chat.
Yeah, Ben. So let's do a little temperature check here for everyone on the call. We just went through all our dashboards. If you see at least one of these that you think might potentially have some benefit for your business, go ahead and throw us a heart, throw us a thumbs up. All you need to do is click that little react button there. Let's see how we're doing so far, Ben. All right, we got 1 thumbs up. Absolutely love that. Got 2. Got 3. All right, beautiful. So we got a bunch of thumbs up coming in here. For everyone on the call, what we're about to jump into, this is our most purchased extension, invoice and statement delivery. We have a lot of people saying this saves about 5 to 10 hours a week for them in terms of the amount of automation it provides. And I'm going to tee you up with that, Ben.
Sweet. Awesome. So like Grant said, invoice and statement delivery, this is our most downloaded, most licensed, most demoed probably as well, just because of the power that you get with invoice and statement delivery. And I always like to show the setup just because I think it speaks to the power of what we can do with invoice and statement delivery. So the test is just, if you're testing this, and again, I would encourage anybody to download this, you put your email in there, it's going to override all the emails in the system when you send it, so that if you're testing, you're not accidentally sending this stuff out to your actual customers. It'll send it to me in this case. The auto email, I really like this one because it allows you to send your AR aging that we just saw in the financial dashboard. It allows you to send that exact report in an Excel-based format directly to your inbox, and then you can schedule that with a job queue that we pre-build. All you have to do is click turn it on, basically, in the setup. And every single day at 8 a.m. when you get in, or 5 p.m. when you're about to leave, it will send you that report, right? So every single day, I use this internally. Every single day when I log in, I get my AR report so I can see if there's anybody I need to follow up with, right? That's just one of the features. the most powerful feature is this invoicing section. So what this invoicing section does, I'll hop down here. It allows you to email upon posting. So when I click post on a sales order, click post on a sales invoice, whatever that activity is, as long as it's generating a posted sales invoice at that time and you're not just shipping, it will email the customer the actual invoice that you'd have to typically go through a handful of dialog boxes for, confirm the email, confirm the body, right? This is sending kind of a prepackaged email body memo that you can customize in here. So I've got some wildcards that say like invoice number, amount due, due date, things like that. So that'll show directly in the email body. And then of course it will also attach the PDF that you have. Now, one of the most popular questions I get there is, I've got different invoice formats for different customers. What additional setup do I have to do here? Nothing. If you're already set up with those document types, it's going to email whatever the document type that you would generate or print or send through the normal prompts. Whatever's set in those document layouts for the customer is what it's going to send through invoice and statement delivery. So that's option one, send on post. Option two is, and a lot of people do this, they'll turn email upon post off when they're testing. They'll send it to a dashboard. And then what that dashboard does is you can select 10, 20, 100 of them, and then just click send and they'll all send all at once. So if you want to like test a few, print them, make sure they look good, and then send it, you could send them all to the dashboard and then send them in bulk. The third option is basically option two with a job queue attached. So you could send them all to the dashboard and then have a job queue run at the end of the day that says at 5 p.m., send everything that's in that dashboard that hasn't been sent yet out to the customers. And we'll show all of that so that you can kind of visualize that as we go. But again, just want to talk about the setup because those are the three options. You can CC yourself or CC someone internally. You can use email scenarios to identify who the email sender is going to be if you don't want to just do like current user. This all does require, of course, that you're using out-of-box Business Central emailing functionality. So whether that be SMTP, shared mailboxes, current user, or Office 365, that does need to be set up before the actual emails will go out because we are using Business Central's email engine. So whatever rules apply there are going to apply here as well. Then the last things are just the subjects. Here you can define a custom subject, and then of course the custom email bodies that we already talked about. Credit memos, payment receipts, we're just going to skip over those because it's literally the same exact functionality. You have the email upon post. You have the email bodies and the CCs, except these are obviously happening when you're doing credit memos or payment receipts instead of invoices. And then when we come down here, statements and past due reminders. So invoices, credit memos, payment receipts, those are all going out when the transaction happens, right? Statements and past due reminders are more so on the collection side or the dunning side or whatever you want to call it, right? So statements, you can set this up here. You can put it on our job queue and it will send out regularly, however often you define. Typically, people are doing it once a month. Now, the cool added functionality that we have here outside of just the schedule is we have the ability, and I'll show you on the customer card, as how to send these statements out. So you can send just the statement. You can have some customers define maybe they don't get a statement, so you can define no statement, or you can have statement with all the invoice attachments. So everyone's favorite excuse is always, oh, I never got the invoice, right? Well, here's your statement, and here's every invoice that's on the statement that hasn't been paid yet, right? So like Grant was saying, not only does it save people time, but we've also seen a significant decrease in day sales outstanding metrics because it's automated and those documents are getting out, whether they be the invoice or the reminder or the statement, and it's constantly keeping me in the loop from kind of a automated fashion in order to get those payments in, right? Which is where the past due reminders come in. This is probably the most powerful feature in this whole tool, right? What this is going to do is one by one on the invoices, you're going to set some rules. So in this case, I said the rules is 2D, 7D. What that's going to do is 2 days after the invoice is due, it's going to send the first email reminder, just saying, hey, your payment was late. It was due 2 days ago. Please make payment. It was something nice and friendly, just a friendly nudge or friendly reminder. Every 7 days after that, until the remaining amount goes to zero, it's going to send them the follow-up email. Now, you can put whatever you want in here. You can remain calm and remain friendly, or you can say, hey, we're going to suspend your service or issue late fees. Again, all of this is just up to you as to what you want to say. This one I put in a little bit more harsh there. Please make prompt payment in order to avoid late fees or suspension of service. Whereas the first time, all I'm saying is, hey, you're late. Can we get some payment, right? So we found this feature specifically really helping reduce that day sales outstanding metric, and it's all automated. It's looking at those date intervals, and when it's time, it is going to send those documents out to the customers and just remind them, hey, here's that invoice copy again, and hey, you're however many days late. The last thing on here before I'm going to demo it is the recurring documents. So again, we can use the React or whatever you want, but usually if everybody's either in person or on the camera, right? It's like raise your hand if you're using recurring documents or using the copy document functionality, right? Half the room raises their hand. If you're raising your hand, the recurring documents feature is going to save you a bunch of time. What it does essentially is take kind of the concepts of the recurring general journals and take some of those functions and put them on sales orders and sales invoices. Now you don't have to do copy document. Now you don't have to use recurring sales lines because it's literally a document template that's going to get regenerated every month or every 12 days or whatever you set your recurring frequency as. And then it's going to generate a new sales order that you can either create and post, create, release. If you think you need edits, those are some functions that we could get into. So I'll show all of those as well. But again, if you're using copy document or using recurring sales lines, at least check out what recurring documents can do for you. Again, if you can't tell already, I'm not a hard salesperson. I just like to educate people. And if you like our tools, then great, and we can work on those tools together. But I'd highly recommend people plug this in if any of that speaks to you, and see if you like it. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us or feel free to drop them in the chat right now. But with that, I am going to actually jump in and do an auto-posted sales invoice and show you what that dashboard looks like as well. Any other questions while I do that, Grant?
Looking all good on this end, Ben.
Perfect. Let's just do a sales invoice real quick. All right. So what this is going to do, we're not going to do anything fancy or custom here. We're literally just going to create a sales invoice. All this is out of box. You'll see some custom things in here like the pop-up note, and actually I can give kind of a sneak peek into advanced notes, but this is the next extension we're going to talk about is advanced notifications. So you'll see a pop-up note just appeared. It's also saving that pop-up note over here in the advanced notes section so that we can check it and see it later. Again, we'll do a full debrief on advanced notifications here in a second. Another pop-up note, that one's based on the item. It's going to save that there as well. My inventory's running low, I know, in Dallas, but I think we got a few left there. And that looks all good to me. Let's go ahead and post this. Hopefully there's no prepayment on this. We got a prepayment extension that's pretty popular as well. If anybody's using prepayments in the system, I know it's not part of this demo, but we've found that anybody who's using prepayments, that our tool gives a big leg up on what you can do with Business Central out of box. Great. No prepayment on that one. So invoice has been posted. Great. Again, nothing that you just saw appears custom because it wasn't, but behind the scenes is where all the magic's happening, right? We didn't pop up that dialog box. We didn't do any of that to click extra buttons. And where this is going to appear now is in the invoice delivery dashboard. So let's pop over there, and I'll also pop up my email here in a second. What's today's date? The 28th, 1:39. That sounds about right. This is the one that we just sent, right? So you can see that the document's been emailed. If I click into that, come down here. I did have a prepayment, but that's okay. Microsoft Surface 8 there is the item that we did. 1,300. Like I said, I've got that prepayment as well. So we must have had a retainer style prepayment, so we can do prepayments at the customer level. I actually did one of these with Joe this morning, Grant. That's probably why it's in there. So we did a prepayment of 1,000, which is actually a great use case. So now we've used $1,000 of that prepayment, and the customer actually only owes us 300. So that's a double demo that we get. We get a little added cherry on top there of ISD, ANTN, advanced prepayments all working nicely together, right? So let's pop open that email now. And this is the email I just got. So thanks for being the valued client. Please find your invoice attached per client name. You owe $300. This is the due date. And if I pop open this invoice, boom, Surface 8, 1,300. Took 1,000 out of my prepayment, 300 left. All that good stuff. You can pay with a third-party payment app if you'd like. That's nothing that we built, but there's a lot of good tools out there as well. If you want to collect payments and do AR automation, totally an advocate for that. And let's get back out of here. All right, coming back to the dashboard. Now, let's say that you didn't email it upon post, right? It's still going to appear in this dashboard. The only difference is we're not going to have a delivered time or a delivered by because it was never delivered, right? It would just be blank. And here in the delivery status, it would say pending. So in that case, what you would do is you'd come click on one, you'd select 10 of them, whatever you want to do, come up here, select them, click send email. In this case, it's going to probably tell me, yeah, hey, you've already sent it. Are you sure you want to resend? Just kind of safeguarding against maybe not sending them twice in case it was a mistake. Just click yes. And it's just going to do it again. So if I pop this up, let me get my email going again. All right, pretty quick there. You can see 141, the other one is at 139. So it's just sending it again, right? Sending the original document. You can send this as many times as you'd like. And if I come over here, you can see how many times it number printed. It's however many times you printed it or sent it, right? So now I've sent this one 2 times. So again, you can come in here, select as many as you want from the dashboard, click send. You can also just print them if for some reason you want to stuff it in an envelope and toss a stamp on there. Go for it. You can do that from here. And all of those other dashboards are going to look very similar, right? So if I go to the invoice reminder, come in there, I can see the last time or the time the invoice was sent. And then if I come over here on the reminder sent date, I can see the past due reminders that I've sent. So this is great, right? I sent the original invoice on 4/23. I've sent a follow-up on 8/18. And it's been 7 days since then, so I could send them a reminder. So let's send them a reminder. I can come up here, say send reminder email. Again, I could select them all if I wanted to. Send reminder email. And again, you can automate all this. I'm just showing you manually because it's tough to automate in a 1-hour demo. But let's pop this guy open here. All right. So now you can see what that looks like. Thanks for being a valued client. And then this was a follow-up, right? Because we've already sent it. They're like 3 months, 4 months overdue. Please make prompt payment order to avoid late fees or suspension of service, right? So that's the reminder. You pop open that invoice, and again, that's just the invoice format that they got originally. So a lot of cool stuff there. Again, you can do it on post. You can do it automated from a job queue. You can do it manually from the dashboard that we have up here. And it's just a great kind of like one-stop shop to manage your AR, to manage your collections, to manage your reminders, your statements, all that good stuff, right? The last thing I'm going to show here is those recurring documents because I really like these. Recurring sales documents. What does this do? Well, like I said, it does the think recurring general journals, but on steroids with invoices and orders, right? So this is going to look and feel exactly like that that normal sales order invoice that we were looking before, but you get some recurring settings. So now you can add a frequency. You can add what you want to do when it recurs. So you can create it and leave it open. You can create it and release it, or if you want to kind of automate it to the gills, you can do create and post, right? So now with send on post, if you had recurring documents creating and posting, and you had the send on post enabled, theoretically, you could come in here and on 9/1, all of your documents for whatever those recurring charges are would be created. They would automatically post. And because you have that turned on, it would automatically send. So you could, we've got clients that are doing like, real estate and rentals and software subscriptions, things like that. They're just turning this on the 1st of every month. The invoice is regenerating, it's posting, it's sending, all that good stuff, all automated straight through the system. If you ever need to come in here, you can update this, and you can update it at any point in time, and it will apply to the next time it goes out. So if I updated this right now, all these changes would apply to my 9/1 invoice. Obviously, nothing would go backwards, but if something gets upcharged or downcharged, you have a one-time fee, you can add it here, and it will get automatically triggered the next time those get sent out. The last thing on here is we got some wild cards. So we got a 3/4. That's going to be month, year. So again, recurring MSP for September 2023 for these next ones going out, right? Again, that one's a little tough to demo because they'll pop open on 9/1, and it's tough to kind of fake that date. But I've got a demo video on it that I've done before, so we can send that out after the call if anybody wants to see that. But again, if you're using copy document or doing anything that's recurring on the sales side, would highly recommend checking this out. It's going to look and feel exactly like the sales order and sales invoices with those additional pieces here, and you can put it on hold, things like that, whatever you need. All right, I've got 15 minutes left, so let's go to the invoice delivery dashboard one more time. One last thing on invoice and statement delivery is this update document function. So if I click process, update document, what this is going to allow us to do for header records that you see here and then lines that are either comments or GLs. We can't do this for items because there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes, but you can actually update certain fields in posted documents, and it will make sure that all of the kind of downstream and upstream effects for the general ledger, as well as maybe the dates or the external document numbers, things like that, make their way to all of the necessary tables that they need to make their way to. So if you're voiding a lot of documents or recreating a lot of documents because you screwed up the date or the external document number, or maybe a dimension like one of your global twos, you can come in here. This saves a ton of time. You don't have to revoid it all out unless, of course, you make a mistake with an item. That's something that's a little bit too risky right now for us. Don't want to touch inventory and corrections. Still have to, do the returns and the refunds and the credit memos for those. But if all you had was some GL lines, here are some comments, and you can even add a line as well. So if you wanted to add a comment line, you could do so here if you forgot to do it before you posted it. So just some other cool things that we can do there with invoice and statement delivery. So I spent a lot of time on that one, but that is our most popular tool. So I like to give it its due respect there. But I'm going to jump into advanced notifications now. Let me see any questions. No. All right. Advanced notifications. We already touched on this a little bit when we were doing our sales order just a bit ago. So we've got the pop-up notes. We saw a pop-up note on customers and items. Again, if everyone's like, Ben, everyone has pop-up notes. Like there's like 10 different tools that do this. Okay, yeah, fair. But we have all of this built into our one package, right? So pretty much every pop-up note tool I've used is very similar, including ours, right? Pop-up note, there's nothing really proprietary about pop-up notes. You can only do so much. We pop them up, we save them. What you see is what you get, right? In addition to that, though, where the real power comes in is the advanced notifications and the ad hoc notifications. So what advanced notifications do, these are going to be event triggered notes. When something happens, send someone a notification or send someone an email or do both, right? So if a purchase order is received, send an email, send an advance note, or do both. When a sales order ships, when a prepayment has been paid, when inventory goes negative, when inventory is adjusted, when quotes are expiring, when sales orders have been not invoiced, purchase orders not received, purchase orders not invoiced, things like that. We can get emails and you can click directly into them to get into that purchase order, that sales order, whatever you need. So think of it as kind of pre-built workflows that you can go ahead and enable without using any of the kind of out-of-box setup or any of the out-of-box workflows that you need. So just an easier way to work with workflows for the pre-built workflows that we've set. Now, that's the second piece. The third piece, which is probably the most powerful in my opinion, is the ability to do ad hoc notes. And let me actually go in. Somehow it jumped me back to production. Definitely don't want to do anything there. So we'll jump back into our sandbox real quick. All the settings will be exactly the same, but let's go to our posted sales invoice. All righty. So let's go right here. That 300 one, I think, was the one we were working on earlier. So let's pop that bad boy open. All right. We already have 2 advanced notes. Those are coming from the pop-up notes. You can see that those have been saved. We see everything that was in here, right? But this person hasn't paid yet, and I want to make a note. I can go to add note, pop it open, go to Grant. I'm going to send it to myself as well, just so Grant doesn't have to forward it to me. And I'm going to say, please check on this invoice. Needs to be paid today, right? And just to show you the full functionality, I'm going to grab an image. It's full, rich text, HTML, all that good stuff. That image is way too large, so I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close it. Now it's going to do 2 things. The first thing is it's going to save it over here in this kind of like fact box area under the attachments for my advanced notes. And at the same time, let's pop this open. I just got an email. What that email is going to do is it's going to look exactly the same as what we just got. Grant Ben, please check on this invoice. Needs to be paid today. It gives me my logo, and it gives me a hyperlink that I can click on. What that hyperlink is going to do is it's going to open me right back up into that transaction. So this is the most used feature in advanced notifications because you can do things on the fly. You can communicate, you can tag people, you can email people. It's going to save all of that directly in the Business Central user interface. It's going to save it all off on the right-hand side there. By default, if you don't set anything up, it is going to save to your Business Central database. So if you're going to be using this a lot and you're going to be using a lot of images, we have an option to hook it up to blob storage, which I would highly recommend. Again, if you're going to be doing a high volume with advanced notifications, and the incremental cost for using Azure Blob Storage is very minuscule. So again, if you're doing a lot of images and a lot of notes and things like that, would recommend looking at that as an option. But to get up and running on day one, all you have to do is turn the extension on. You can start tagging your coworkers, tagging your friends. They'll get emails, and they'll be prompted to do things in the system with those links to bring them directly back into the transaction in question. So with that, Grant, I got about 8 minutes left. I know we want to leave time for Q&A. I can do advanced notifications very quickly, but I think this gives Business Central so much more horsepower than it has out of box. So I want to see if there's any specific questions into either invoice and statement delivery or advanced notifications before we round this out. So anything else in the chat right now, or anybody else have any questions that they want to drop in before we jump into our last piece?
Looks like the chat box still clean, Ben. For anyone who wants to check it out, though, did post one of our videos with a more in-depth demo specifically on invoice and statement delivery for anyone else that is interested. But for now, Ben, let's pop back over to you.
Cool. And like Grant said, if you go on our website, we try to make it as easy as possible to consume. On every app, we've got use cases, download links, some videos, and then some screenshots as well. So it's very self-serve. We like to work with people however they like to work. If they like to read the manual and watch the videos, we've got the manual, we've got the videos. If you want to call us and have us hold your hand and walk you through every bit and piece, we're happy to do that as well. We want to do whatever makes it as easy as possible for you. We try to put all those mediums out there in order to implement, as well as support it. So I would highly recommend checking out the website if this is a way that you like to navigate with things. So I will jump back into Business Central, and really the last piece I'm going to talk about is advanced accounting. Advanced accounting is kind of a hodgepodge of custom features or requests that clients or partners have asked us for over the past couple of years. And that's if we can't find a place for them somewhere else, we put them in advanced accounting, right? So two of my favorite features in advanced accounting, the first one is the auto email report. So if you remember on invoice and statement delivery, we could deliver that AR report to your inbox every day. So we took about 6 other reports and did the same thing and dropped them in advanced accounting. So you can do AR, you can do AP, you can do an income statement, you can do a balance sheet, you can do a inventory valuation, a job whip, and a sales summary. So again, all of those you can have delivered to your inbox on a daily basis. And when delivered, it will have an email body as well as an Excel attachment that has the data that you're looking for there. The other really cool feature is enhanced check printing. So the two biggest things there are the ability to add additional images to your checks and the ability to do signature thresholds. So you can have 1 or 2 signatures, and you can place thresholds in those in order to say, hey, if it's over $5,000, don't print the signature. If it's under, print it. And you can do that with 1 or 2 signatures and with whatever personally defined thresholds that you would like. So that's really kind of the short of it. I do want to leave about 5 minutes at the end here in order to talk through any questions. I'm sure there are questions. If people don't want to ask them in the chat and they want to ask them in more of a one-on-one scenario, please feel free to email us as well. But Grant, I'm going to hop back to the PowerPoint. I'll let you round it out with a few of the final slides, just so that we can take it home. They have our contact information, and then we can leave a couple minutes for questions as well.
100% on that, Ben. So for everyone on the call, just posted Ben and my emails in the chat, but of course too, you have an excellent Sabre resource working with you. So reach out to your consultant or your rep if you want some more information on our extensions as well. In terms of pricing, everything that we price for our extensions and bundles is per tenant, which means you can have as many companies and as many users as you want to in Business Central. It is just a per tenant price. So if you want access to all of our extensions, it's $3,600 a year. That includes every single thing we have now and everything we release in the future. If you just want to use the extensions we showed today, that's $2,400 a year. And if you want to just go a la carte, all our dashboards are $600 a year. And all of our other extensions for automation are between $900 to $1,200 a year. We like to add value immediately, so configuration typically takes a little bit less than an hour for each of our extensions, and we have plenty of resources like what Ben showed you on the website as well. So like I said, we put our emails in there, but Ben, if you want to go over to the next slide. If anyone does want to reach out to us though, you can always reach out to us on the website, by email, by phone, and all of us are based out of the United States. We have one developer overseas that kind of helps on contract work, but you can reach us in all normal time zones as well. All right, so we got that done. Anyone who has any questions, please feel free to hop in the chat box. But Robbie, I know you want to hop in as well too on the Sabre side. So if you want to close us out on this one, Robbie, you're good to go.
All right. So I did get some questions too within the Q&A actually. So we have for question number 1, and I'm not too sure who's going to want to answer these ones, but you guys feel free to go and take them away. So question number 1, how long does it typically take to implement each one of your extensions?
Yeah, I can grab that one, Grant. So depends on the extension. Everything we showed today, typically less than an hour, right? So the dashboards, I can work with most folks and get those up and running in 15 to 20 minutes. All depends on if you just want the cookie cutter approach or you want to ask a question about every field, right? We all know how that goes. So depending on how many questions there are, which we love, it could take longer. But if you just said, hey, Ben, set it up, best practice, I could do it in 15 minutes. Invoice and statement delivery, advanced notifications, and advanced accounting. Those are a little bit more involved just because there's more optionality to how you want to do things, right? Whether you want to do it on post, from the dashboard, from the job queue. So I would just give most people 1 to 2 hours just to be safe, right? We should never go over 2 hours on something like that. And kind of the approach we like to have with things is right, kind of like when you open that box to your iPhone, right? You just start clicking the buttons and it kind of works. We want to have that plug and play approach where you kind of open the box up and you can start clicking post and it'll start sending, and you can start clicking AR and it'll show you the dashboard. So for everything we looked at today, anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. The only ones that are outliers, I'll say, which we didn't talk about today, we have a project management tool that's kind of an alternative to jobs for people who don't have complex WIP requirements. That one takes about 35 hours to implement. And we have an advanced CRM tool, which is kind of a light version of Dynamics CE or sales. That also takes like about 30 to 35 hours just because there's a lot more configurations and trainings and things like that. And they are still plug and play, but there's a lot more to do on the setup. And then we have a distribution control center, which I talked about today, which is like ship, pick, pack, ship, PRC, vitamin queries, using scan guns, things like that. Takes maybe 15 to 20 hours. So with the exception of those three, everything else we can just say kind of blanket under 2 hours, but some might be as low as 15, 20 minutes.
Another question that came in is, are there any customizations that we can make to your extensions?
Not currently. We've been looking into that to see if that's something we want to open up as an option, but at the current moment, we can extend anything that you need. But right now, we've kept all of that work internal just to kind of make it easier for us to support. As you can imagine, when you open some of those things up, then, hey, Ben, something broke with your extension. I don't know everything else that it's touching now, right? So we haven't opened that up yet. But if you do need customizations, when we have a lot of customers who have kind of extended our extensions, we've just kept that work internally. And we also like to do that because it allows us to get and aggregate all the requests. And sometimes we'll take those requests and add them into our base product at no charge if it's something that, hey, we never thought about, but this could be good for other people as well. So that's one of the main reasons too that we like to do everything internally, to see if it's something that we could add to the base app. Obviously, everybody on the phone benefits because they don't pay for anything, and we get a better, stronger app from those feature requests as well.
Beautiful. And then the final question that I have in the Q&A is, where can we learn about the other 10 extensions that you guys weren't able to mention in this demo?
Yeah, absolutely. Am I still sharing the screen, Grant?
Yes, you are, Ben.
Perfect. the URL is kind of long up here, but if you go to bctoolbox.com, it'll redirect you to this page. This is every extension that we currently have on AppSource. You can click into any of them. The bundles are just bundles of the products below. So the actual products that you'll want to look at here, if you go to like advanced notifications, or let's do advanced CRM because it's one we didn't talk about. You can come into advanced CRM, see the different use cases for relationship management, productivity dashboarding, emailing, marketing. You could use the download links to go directly to AppSource or download the user setup guide. We've got some videos for each of these. We do a series called Toolbox Tuesday every other Tuesday, where we deep dive into one app. It's 30 minutes long. So you can check those out. We record all those as well on the website. Then you can also look at some of the product screenshots, which just show like contact cards, activity tracking, just some different features of the various apps that you'd click into. So I'd highly recommend going to bctoolbox.com and feel free to browse any of these apps that might spark your interest.
Amazing. Well, if that's all the questions that we have for today, then I'd like to thank you all for attending our webinar. And I'd like to thank Grant and Ben for presenting for us today. I hope you all have a great day, and we hope to see you again at one of our upcoming webinars.